Roadside Theater.
Curious thing that happens in this world. People make judgments about other people without knowing anything about them. They decide something and that's just the way it is forever. It don't make much difference. And growing up where we lived in the mountains, just because of where we lived and the way we talked and the kind of things that we did, there was a tendency to believe that somehow or other we weren't as smart as the rest of the world. Somehow or other there was that tendency to do that. And what happened was that along the way, we began to start thinking the same thing. If somebody stands up in your face often enough and tells you that you're not as good as them, after a while, there's a tendency for you to start believing it. But somewhere along the way, you've got to make a decision whether other people are going to run your lives or whether you're going to run your life. And you have to decide what you're going to be and who you're going to be. And you have to look to the things that are yours and don't belong to somebody else. And what we looked to was our own language, we looked to our own culture, and we looked to our own stories and our own music. And so we started telling the things that belong to us. And these are the kind of stories that have been around where we come from for hundreds and hundreds of years. And we figured if they're not ours, then who are they? So we started telling stories and singing music. And that's what we still do, traveling all around all over the country. And that's why we're here at this festival here. We'll start out here and we'll tell you a kind of story. How many of y'all ever heard of any Jack tales? So old Jack, he lit out across country, figured he might catch up with it over some other port.
Well, that night, Jack, he slept out there in the wilderness all by himself.
Now, you ain't gonna believe this.
But the next morning when he woke up,
there was this little old hairy man
sitting right astraddle his neck trying to ride him.
Lord have mercy, like that scared old Jack to death. And he jumped up and took off running just as hard as he could tear, you know.
But that little old hairy man, he had these spurs on his boots. He sat in the gig and Jack upside the neck with them big spurs he had on.
Well, Jack, he run till he just about run himself to death. But he couldn't. Little hairy man on amphetamines, that's what it was.
So we work very hard to try to present a voice that brings people into the action, into the process, so that they don't just sit there and listen to the story, they become a part of the story and move on. We believe by doing that, we are not limited then by geography. We are not limited again by even language. Our music speaks to people who can listen and play and do other kinds of music. Our work then simply does not point out how different we are. Our work then simply points out how much alike we all are. It has that ability.
Directly, that little old hairy man, he started pitching and reeling on old Jack's neck.
Yeah, and old Jack, he says to himself,
said, "Uh-oh, little hairy man, I'm going to fix you."
So he started a bucking around.
Like one of them old rodeo horses?
And that little old hairy man, he just fell right off onto the ground.
Jack went over, he picked him up this little old rock. He just picked that little old hairy man's brains right out.
One of the problems is that people don't believe there's giants in the world no more. We know there are giants in the world. We know there are giants in the world. And it was just simply for me to tell people there were giants in the world and put it in a way that they could understand it.
My name, Junebug, Jumbo Jones. I am a storyteller. Now, I say storyteller instead of liar, because there's a heap of difference between your storyteller and your liar. See, a liar, that's somebody which is taking cover things over, mainly for his own private benefit. Storyteller, now, that's somebody taking uncover things, so everybody can get something good out of it. I'm a storyteller. Storyteller. And that's the blues. Sometimes people listen to the blues and think it's all sad. But it don't have to be sad just because you feel bad. You know what I mean?
I dig into the community, to my community, and find solid ground in that community as a person, as a citizen in that community, as an artist. Then we look and say, well, the future in America is going to be the product of what all these communities do to make it, or fail to do to make it, to make that future.
What did they do? What they took from you, man? What did they do with mine? No use complaining what they took from you. They're stealing from us all a long time. Now, the black people hear arguments. Pretty soon they steal alike. They think about the past. Let's look up to people. Pretty soon they get it right. They tell all the others it's just not right what we lost against compare. They say, how you get yours before we get out? We paid more than our share. We got families to serve. Where's the justice? Millions gone in slave ship sea. With faith in fact, they wrote their 300 generations for freedom. The only thing we ask when we finish the task was the 40 acres and the mule. We ask and we wait and we ask again. They look at us like we were fools. It's been a long time since 1865 and changes are going to come. But if they start to save everybody else, Lord knows they better save me some. What did they do with what they took from you, man? What did they do with mine? No use complaining what they took from you. They're stealing from us all a long time.
Agent Red down Street was looking in grief at the damage done on the earth. Like the blood been shed down through the years, no shame to people that work. You can't measure the sorrow of the buffalo people who could dwell from shore to shore. Before the pilgrims began, this was a red man's land. Before they were forced to go. Those that are left, the land-lost people were forced on the reservation. The trail of tears, shadows lost and won, been mistreated manipulation. They've been fighting in the past, using the system, organizing plans, handling with the brothers and sisters, winning back their land.
What did they do with what they took from you, man? What did they do with mine? No use complaining what they took from you. Been stealing from us all a long time. Now, it goes on and on with the women of the world, screaming, give us the ERA.
All right.
Equal jobs, equal pay, all the benefits. And Lord help you if you want them, you get. Because they're trying their best to take what's left. Hold on to a little self-pride. Because greed is the devil, and whoever is a winner can join in the militant line. Don't be upset if we seem to forget you left out your personal beat. We're all sisters and brothers if we're doing nothing else. We're all sharing grief. The battle's not easy. The past rough and easy, so it's going to take a little more time. It might take a second, but you and me together can get to work till we find what they did with what they took from you, man. Let's find out what they did with mine. No use complaining what they took from us. Let's get all back this time.
Oh yeah? So you like John and Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're great.
What do you like about their performance?
Well, did they make up that song? Is that
They made up the song.
it's good?
They raised a lot of issues about racism
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Is that something you guys usually talk about at school?
Well, not a lot, but I bet now we'll be talking about it a lot because they came here.
You've got John O'Neill doing storytelling theater, you've got Roadside Theater doing storytelling theater. It's a very different kind of stories, but it's still the same thing. Now, if people can see that, I think they begin to realize that we are connected with the way that we form our images of ourselves and the people. If you hear stories of somebody else, you find out that you're not really separated.
What we like to do is to go out into the place where we're performing. We like to go out, spend a day just walking around, seeing the people that are there, the shopkeepers, the students, if they're here. We go to schools, and a lot of our workshop doesn't just center around, well, this is a storytelling workshop, so we're going to show you our techniques And it doesn't go like that all the time. We want to find out where they're at. We were in, what school was it when we asked them about how many of them can see themselves going to Cornell University. And it was real surprising, and you learn a lot just by those conversations and kids to open up.
How many of y'all think you will end up going to Cornell? Why did you laugh at the impossibility? You don't want to go? You would just not want to go to that school? Okay. Huh? Too hard? Too hard to get in or too hard to... Well, there's 20,000 people down there. Where do they come from? Huh? Foreign countries? You mean to tell me that in your own community, one of the biggest colleges in the country, and you can't go to it, and you don't want to go to it, and that those people are coming from other places to go to the school that's in your community? How did that happen, boy?
And if you just kind of get those kids thinking about those things, you know, and answering, I mean, it's hard to ask a 9th grader, you know, to plan their college career. But if you get them answering questions about themselves, we've done workshops where you just, residencies, where you ask kids to name 5 things they like about themselves, you know, not necessarily what other people like about them. Well, they say that I do this good, or they say, you know, they like this about me. But when you really start trying to pin them down and ask them what they like, and they have to think about it because they've never thought about it. And so you find that their motivation, a lot of times their confidence, is not intact because they're kind of out in left field. And if they get a sense of where they're from, it's a lot easier for them to kind of direct where they're going to get, where they're going to go.
I saw that black cloud rising, heart of the sea. I heard my mama praying, let the sun shine down on me. Roll on clouds. Roll on clouds in the morning. Roll on clouds in the morning. Roll on clouds in the morning. Let the sun shine down on me. Down the way. Run down.
My great-grandfather was an old Anglo Baptist preacher. He served his community for 50 years as a religious leader. He was a part of that community. He functioned like the breath of that community. You know, it was natural for him to speak to his people and for those people to come and confide in him. And for my part, I hope to be nothing more than that, to be a natural part of my community where I speak to the people and they confide in me. And then I, in turn, confide in them by telling and retelling the stories over and over again till their story becomes universal.
Glory and deliverance, roll on clouds in the morning, let the sun shine down on me.
Thank you.
Everybody goes through it.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what culture you are, you know, people are facing a lot of hardships, a lot of joys. And to realize that, I think can help them along the way. So where it's not just so inward, it's getting the kids to stop taking everything so personal, which is hard to do, and see the bigger picture of everything. And you know, kids might not do that for years.
Yeah, it's about giving them access to the tools to deal with their problems, and that's what talking to each other and listening to each other is all about.
Somewhere there's a child crying. Somewhere there's a child crying. Somewhere there's a child crying, crying for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child studying. Somewhere there's a child studying. Somewhere there's a child studying for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child smiling. Somewhere there's a child smiling. Somewhere there's a child smiling, smiling for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child
Somewhere there's a child of mine. Somewhere there's a child of mine. Coming for South Africa. Somewhere there's a children dancing. Somewhere there's a children dancing. Somewhere there's a children dancing. Dancing for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child a playing. Somewhere there's a child a playing. Somewhere there's a child a playing. Playing for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child drumming. Somewhere there's a child singing. Somewhere there's a child singing. Singing for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child. Somewhere there's a child. Somewhere there's a child. Singing for freedom in South Africa. Somewhere there's a child. Somewhere there's a child. Somewhere. Somewhere there's a child of praying. Somewhere there's a child of praying. Somewhere there's a child of praying. Praying for freedom in South Africa. Praying for freedom in praying for freedom. Praying for freedom. Praying for freedom in South Africa.
Hi. Did you see this entire performance?
Yeah,
What'd you think?
it was pretty fresh.
Pretty.
Fresh. Awesome. Good.
Yeah. What'd you get out of it? Did you learn anything?
Yeah, and mostly it was just fun.
What will you remember most?
Probably the whole last song.
What about it?
It was sort of moving. It was a neat song.
How is it moving?
I don't know. It was just moving. It was like it made you want to get up and do something about it. About that there are people doing stuff for freedom in South Africa and everywhere else, as a matter of fact.
As a young man, I was riding out on the western plain in the state of North Dakota. There I met my Nellie Kane. I met my Nellie Kane.